Hello, this is Gavin Patterson from Studio 1790, and today I'm going to do a bit of an advanced tutorial on EQ. So it's a technique I've learned over the years, and I'm going to share it with you today. So we'll go straight into Cubase. This is a project, a single called Spot the Difference by a band called Secret Public, based in Edinburgh. So check them out, they're on Spotify. So I'm going to show you the bass specifically of this track. So I've recorded, as you can see here, bass DI, bass Kemper. So the Kemper is for those of you who don't know, it's an amplifier that it's like a modeling amplifier. It does profiling and stuff like that. It's a really cool amplifier. Check it out. I use it in the studio. It's primarily for guitar, but you can use bass as well. So that's what that is. So the DI, I'll let you listen just now. Let me turn all the effects off just now. So this is the DI. And the Kemper. So I think that was an Acoustic 360, which is a brand of amplifier that I quite like the sound of. So both of them together. So you get the nice clean DI. Nice, all the frequencies are well rounded, and then you get the sort of harsher, more ampy sound. There's a wee bit of crunch in there as well. So that's what I'm dealing with just now. So yeah, the bass. So we'll go over some of the processing before I get into the EQ trick. So this song, I was struggling a little bit when it came to mixing. I was trying to get a bass sound in my head that I was struggling to get for this song. So I was messing around for ages, and I came across this. So I've had this plugin for years. It's called the Aphex Vintage Exciter by Waves. Vintage Aural Exciter. Basically, it makes things sound lo-fi and weird, and I like that. So I'll just turn it on just now. So that's dry and on. Ah, typical. There we go. So you can hear it makes a sound. It's like high mids. It generates stuff that isn't necessarily there to begin with. So it changes the signal. It gives you more information to play with. So what I typically do with this is, if I'm struggling to get a good tone on a guitar or bass or sometimes a snare drum, I might stick this at the front to generate some weird harmonic frequencies, so that when I hit it with an EQ, I've got something there to grab. Otherwise, I'm going to be reaching for my EQ and turning it up full and nothing's happening. So the Aural Exciter is supposed to introduce new characteristics to the sound that I can then EQ. So hear what we're doing. So that's the Aural Exciter on. Let me just set up a loop just now. Okay, here we go. Right, that's it on. So we'll engage all this stuff here. Right. So I'll just switch everything off to now. Talk about it. So here, that's just gain. That's just a little bit of volume. Then we've got a virtual drive. This is part of Slate's preamp emulations. I'm not really driving this much. It's just up a little bit. But if you want to drive this, you can really get it to crank. So I'll show you what I mean. Nasty. But I'm not doing that just now. So I've got the Neve EQ, which matches up with this. As you can see, it's the same color. Right. Bringing out some honk. So that's 700 Hertz. 12 dB. So it's probably cutting through the mix a lot better. A little bit of console emulation, so that's a little bit of dirt and grit. I wanted to try and make the bass sound gritty without being distorted, because I don't think the bassist wanted necessarily distorted tone. So it was clean, but just a little bit of aggression, but not too much. So that's why I'm using all this stuff. And then I've got a hefty compressor on here. That's off. On. Now you can see it's when he digs in with the pick, you can really hear it going down, rather than just going ding 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 ding. So that's really flattening out that, making it sound nice and punchy. Then going on to adding a little bit of low end here. Off. On. You just hear that. So I'm adding a little bit of 100 with a fairly wide Q, not too wide, and then rolling off some low end rumble crap. So that's nothing too crazy. So now, this is where it starts to get super mental. So I'm using this. So a couple of videos ago, I did a video on the CLA vocals plugin. This is a CLA bass plugin. So it's the same thing, but for bass. This is a cool one. So I'll play this one. So that's bypassed. And whoa. Right? So big change. So I'm giving it even more of everything that I want. So just even more exaggeration. So basically, I've prepped the bass for this, got it all ready to be going into this. So I've got a little bit of distortion on this. You can hear that. That honk that I put in here on the Neve, that 12.5 dB of honk, is driving this distortion. It's coming into this plugin, and the growl setting on the distortion is just grabbing all of that, and it's making the thing cook. So if I turn down that EQ with this on, I'll show you what I mean. It'll probably just disappear. Wow, it's boring. Okay, back in. It's nice and flat. Rounds out, sounds better, but if I turn that off, the difference becomes even crazier. So yeah, it might sound honky on its own, but when it's going through the whole chain, this is why it's so difficult to do mixed revisions sometimes when you're asked, like, oh, can you change the EQ or something on this? Everything depends on everything else when it comes to mixing. Everything's so dependent. So when you change one thing, it affects everything in the chain leading up to that and everything after it as well. So it's such a intricate balancing process. So after I've hit it with this, I have hit it with just the CLA 3A. This is quite a lot of plugins for a bass. I usually don't use this many, but this bass really needed something to lift it. So LA3A. So that's just giving it more power. I'm trying to get that aggressive pick sound, as you can hear. So I'll turn everything off. So listen to the sound of the pick. Right? I want to make it sound punky. So done that, and a little bit of tape emulation just to get rid of the transients. So I don't want it to be too spiky, so this will just round off the spike and it'll make it more soft. So I don't want it to be too spiky so that it snaps out and annoys me in the mix. This just keeps it tamed. I'll show you what this does. So you can really cook this one as well. So it just adds a little bit of control to those transients. Now the transients are if you've ever heard that word before, a transient is basically the very first impact of a sound. So if you look, for example, I'll show you a snare drum. They're really easy to see. So there's a snare drum there. And that first hit, that first wave that goes down all across all these signals, that's called the transient. The very first hit of the sound. You know, because it goes from nothing and then sound. That's the transient. Sometimes when you are processing music, especially with digital plugins, transients can be out of control because analog gear tends to soften transients and make everything soft and warm and fuzzy. But digital is too accurate, so you can get these transients that just go whoa out of nowhere, and the equipment can't keep up with it. So you need to tame them more. You need to be more aware of them in digital, because digital's, it's too good that some of the limitations of analog eliminated transients. You didn't even have to think of them because it just, everything was analog. So that's just a little thing to think about. That's what I'm using that for. And then lastly, this is the point in this video, is a plugin, a technique that I have used a few times. It's a dynamic EQ. So what this thing is doing, if I press play, I can't remember which section of the song this was. I mixed this a few weeks ago. There was a section I noticed in this room I was mixing on the speakers. There was a frequency, and I'll tell you right now what it is, channel 2, and it was 121 hertz. In this room sounded very prominent. So what I did was I found it. I'll play a bit and I'll increase the gain and I'll show you what it sounds like. That's it decreased. Move on to the next bit. Okay. It's very resonant. There. It's that note there. La, whatever note that is. Whenever he plays that note on the guitar, that note in this room is just like, whoa! But I don't want to simply just go, oh, I'll just take that out then. Because what happens is when he moves to the next note, all the bass disappears. I don't want to affect the next notes. So if you look at the waveform just now, this is quite handy. Look on this plugin, you'll see the notes moving? Da, da, da. So you can actually see the waves moving up and down when he changes notes. So what this plugin does is I found the note that was annoying me, which was 121 hertz, I swept up and down like that to find it. There, right? And then put the gain back down to 0. And with this plugin, I can put the range, down to minus 15.6 and set a threshold. And if you just look closely, whenever he plays that note, the plugin automatically takes it down. See that? There. I'll increase it. There. So what the plugin does is it detects when there's according to a threshold that you set. I'll put that back to where I found it. You can tell it like, oh, if you detect a little bit of it, then just bring it down a wee bit. Or if you detect it, you can detect more and then it'll reduce it more. So you can mess around with that setting. So it basically means that you are reducing that frequency only when it occurs, not all the time. Because I could just go and grab an EQ like this one, open up a new band, and find 121 hertz, which is there, make a thin Q, and then just take it out. But it's affecting the whole thing all the time. I don't want to do that, I want to affect that one note. So that plugin only takes it out when it happens, which is great. It's like a multiband type of thing, like a multiband compressor, but it's not. It's EQ. So I started using this a few years ago, and anytime I have issues like that where it's only at one frequency or one note that recurs maybe on the chorus or something, I can just turn that on and it just keeps it tamed. Could be that the pickup on his guitar is quite resonant in that range and that frequency on that note. Different guitars are different. So there might be like a Strat guitar where you play a C note on the A string. It might be super resonant, but a C note on the E string isn't. Or you get another guitar that's the opposite. It just depends. So you can't really predict what's going to happen. So it's good to have a plugin like this that can just deal with it. So we'll hear a total before and after just for fun. That's before and after.
Feel it coming round.
So there we go, and we've got a decent bass tone there. So yeah, that is that plugin. I forgot to mention that is the Waves F6 RTA. This particular version I've got, yeah, F6 Waves F6 EQ. There's a couple of different versions of it when you buy it. The Waves tend to do that. They send a lot of, they give you a lot of different options to choose from, but this is the one I use, the stereo version. So that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell if you want to receive updates on future videos. Thanks for watching.